Melave Malka, this is an interesting one. What is it? The fourth Shabbos meal. I'll give you a basic understanding. After Shabbos, you're supposed to reset the table a little bit and have a ceremonial, at least a kazayas of a fourth meal, correct? That's what people understand it. That's what you assumed, right?
Well, I don't know too much about the Malka.
Okay. Melave Melech or whatever it is. So, whatever it is, the Rambam doesn't, apparently doesn't hold of Melave Malka at all. Doesn't the Talmud? We'll
I don't
explain.
know.
See, so look at the sources here. In Shabbos Tet, days, that's in the middle of a sukkah. It's talking about preparing for Shabbos and honoring the Shabbos by all the preparations you do beforehand, correct? So Rabbi Yossi says that this is a classic teaching. The two Malchei Asharis who come home with a person. Leil Shabbos. It says Be'erev Shabbos. Milavin Lil Adam Erev Shabbos B'Beisak Nesses Leviso. That means Erev Shabbos in our language, and by the way, in Chazal's language, Erev Shabbos meant a few things. All of Friday, that is, tonight is already Erev Shabbos because Thursday night, or it's Friday daytime, or it's late Friday, or it's even the night of Shabbos. Because once again, unlike Tosfos who boxes us in right at the beginning of our Pesachim, like get from Rashi, sometimes means the day before, sometimes means the afternoon, sometimes means the evening. To say Erev means Dafka Laila after it says is far from shot. There's a few psukim, and apparently even the one that referring to matzah where Erev means the afternoon, because it says Shech the Korban Pesach ba Erev, and that's the afternoon. Okay, so Erev Shas in this case means, as you know, they're coming home, and he finds his house all set, and the nair is already set, the nair is burning, and the table's set, and the bed is made, and the Malach Tov says, it should be like this every Shabbos, right? And the Malach Ra has to say, Amen, yeah, right? And that's Erev Shabbos. And then we have this teaching. Rabbi Elazar says, "La'olam Erev Shabbos, afal pi she'eno tzarech ela l'chzayis." This is the ambiguous line. What does it mean? A person set his table Erev Shabbos means in preparation for Shabbos, even though he does not intend to eat that much on Friday night meal. Now the Gemara already has a rule, and like it mentions, there also Arvei Pesachim. Don't eat a lot before Shabbos. That way you can eat well when Shabbos hits. Some people, even if they just ate breakfast there of Shabbos, they're especially old people. How much can they eat at night? There are people who get so to a certain point, they eat breakfast. That's all they need to do all day. There's no people like that. One meal a day.
Um, High schoolers. Like
Oh,
they should be eating more, but they tend to not.
okay. So understand that that's what's saying. And Rabbi Chanina says, "Lo misadar adam shulchanu b'motzei Shabbos." That's an important. That's why I highlight in bold. Afal pishin tzarich ela l'chzayith. Okay. A person should also set his table properly, even though he only needs a kazayah. So the Rambam understands this. If you look in Hilchos Shabbos, the 30th parak, and I brought over here 3 straight halachas where he's talking about preparing for Shabbos. Kibud Shabbos is wear nice clothing, make your clothing differently, and you also have to do your laundry in time for Shabbos, right? In the 4th halacha, he says you're not allowed to eat. Also, like boa suda mishta erev Shabbos mendei kavod Shabbos. You can't have suda mishta. You can't just make a party erev Shabbos. The Shulchan Aruch mentions this. You can't have a barbecue Friday morning just because. You can have a special meal if there's a mitzvah that happened then. A bris, pidyon ben, a wedding. That's fine. But to just say, you know what? There was one guy who came. He really wanted this. A men's get together. We're gonna have barbecues Friday morning. It'll be a good social thing. I told him you can't do that. Nicosia maybe, but you can't do that. No. By the way, another time where the Rambam says, but you can eat and drink, technically, you can drink water and eat almonds until techshach, which by the way, in Rambam's term means the afal pi kain mikivod mikibut Shabbat or kavod Shabbat shimana adam min mincha mala mikbo asuda. From ori mincha namala, that means from mincha katana. That's what the Rambam means. Ha mincha and Rambam means mincha katana. Should no suda whatsoever. Shouldn't sit down and eat lunch. Should try to build up an appetite for Shabbos. And then in the 5th halach he says, he should set his table Erev Shabbos, even if he's only going to be eating a kazayas. He should still put on a nice tablecloth and a nice plate, a nice fork, right? So him and his wife, they're retired. They live alone, right? So 2 table settings. Make it look nice. Put the candles on the table. Make it look proper. I highlighted these things. Rambam took in this fifth halacha, that teaching of Shabbos, he reversed the two. That section I took from Masechah Shabbos. This whole thing about setting the table for Shabbos and at the end of Shabbos means Kavod Shabbos, the table should always be set on Shabbos. And I wrote here in English that Rabbi Hanina and Rabbi Elazar are talking about setting the meals for Shabbos. It was not a reference to some meal after the Shabbos. Why? How do I know that Motzei Shabbos is not talking about after Shabbos, but the end of Shabbos? Because it says Erev Shabbos also, you have to do the same exact thing. We've only gone points this out. He equates the two. The Gemara here equates Rabbi Elazar's set the table Erev Shabbos with Rabbi Hanina's set the table Motzei Shabbos. If you say Motzei Shabbos refers to another meal after Shabbos is over, so when it says set your table for Erev Shabbos, does that mean a meal that precedes Shabbos? And the Rambam uses the exact same lashon. And the Rambam hasn't mentioned count your meals yet. He hasn't mentioned the first meal, third meal, second meal, etc., and maybe a fourth meal. The Rambam's saying it here. This is about Kibbutz Shabbos, that you have to set everything before Shabbos and honor Shabbos b'chnisato v'yitziato, which, by the way, means what? If you go to the 29th parak, I brought the next source. It's on the second page. The Rambam says Kiddush is also b'chnisato v'yitziato. Zochrei al yayin b'chnisato b'kiddush hayom v'yitziato ba'avdala. When is knisato and yitziato? The Rambam says Erev Shabbos mi ba'od yom. You could even say Kiddush. According to the Rambam, Kiddush is when once the Shabbos day starts, you have an obligation to say Kiddush. But you could even start saying Kiddush when mi ba'od yom, which means, by the way, before Nichnas Shabbos. The Rambam says when the Shabbos come in from sundown. Mi ba'od yom means before sundown. You could do shot Kiddush before sundown. V'chein mavdila kos mi ba'od yom afal pisha dayin hi Shabbos. And Havdalah also. Why? Bein b'sha'at knisato v'yitziato. Because this whole thing, Zochrei Yayin, is supposed to be knisato and yitziato. When the Rambam says knisato and yitziato of Shabbos, knisato means a wide range of time, sometime b'ba'od yom, and even when Shabbos really starts. So too Yitzias Shabbos is b'ba'od yom of Shabbos, and after Shabbos is gone. So there's two implications here in this halacha, Lamed, Hey, where the Rambam is saying that you're supposed to set your table B'Erev Shabbos of Motzei Shabbos. He's talking about the first meal and the third meal. Okay?
I think I've heard of this.
Okay. So, and then the Rambam says, by the way, and then the Rambam says a few halachas later in the third parak, the obligation to eat 3 meals. Okay? You have to eat 3 meals. Achas Arvis, Achas Shachris, Achas B'Mincha. The Rambam, where he says the Arvis one, like the Shulchan Aruch, also says explicitly, technically speaking, we said that it has to be Arvis meal, the first meal is Arvis, but then again, the Shulchan Aruch and Rambam say explicitly, based on Talmud, that one can take in Shabbos and say Kiddush b'ba'od yom, and ain't Kiddush ela b'makom suda. That means, let's say you take in Shabbos an hour before Shkia, so you'll be davening Mariv, and you'll be saying Kiddush. And you will eat your meal, and it's totally fine. And no one ever said, but you have to make sure your meal goes after Tzeis. That's a later Chumrah. Rav Kapach brings that Chumrah. Rav Kapach says, you can ask me, Rav Kapach, you're telling me, Rambam's telling me I could take in Shabbos at 7 p.m. at the summer when the sundown will be at 8, and I can make Kiddush, and then I have to wait until 8:20 just to say Hamotzi? Does that make any sense? That's not pshat in the Rambam. That's what he says.
Wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
The fact that he says that Arvit Shacharit can mean fun.
Yeah.
He's equating it to the vague times Tefillah, right?
Yes. And even those.
And Arvit is like they come.
Yes. And Arvit, especially Erev Shabbos, and also Motzei Shabbos, it's like that. But the Rambam is going to say clearly when you eat all these meals. Okay. The point is, the Rambam does not mention a post-Shabbos meal. The Rambam never says there's a fourth meal. So what does this tell us? Okay, what does this tell us? That Melave Malka, the idea that it's a fourth after Shabbos, is not exactly pshat in the Rambam. Other Rambam. Pshat in the Rambam is the Misadar Adam Shulchano Ber Motzei Shabbos means, like the Rambam says elsewhere, Motzei Shabbos is the end meal of Shabbos. Rambam says you go home. We're going to see this in a later source. You go home after Mincha on Shabbos, and you eat your meal until nightfall. Okay, just keep eating. He says that's the thing. I'll read the exact lashon. Okay, v'yochav yishta ad motzei Shabbos. Okay, Melave Malka aspect is, and the Vilna Gaon's commentary points you to this mushal. You're basically Melave Malka by ending the Shabbos with a meal. Your Shabbos meal goes into the night. Okay, so yeah, don't be surprised if shot in the Gemara, by the way, is like the Rambam says. Now, al pi Kabbalah, they really expand this. That no, it's dafka fourth meal, and it's not Maisarav. I was just showing this today. The Tosefes Maisarav, which is not in all the printings. Okay, it's not in all the printings, which is an important one. Mentions that the Vilna Gaon apparently said no, you should have a fourth meal. Okay, dafka fourth meal. He told his wife she was ill. He was ill one night, and he couldn't hold any food down, and he made sure before sunrise or before dawn on Sunday morning to choke down some food that could be Yotzei Melave Malka. And his wife also had this hakpada that she was fasting every now and then. She had intermittent fasting. He found out that she wasn't eating after Havdalah. Dafka made her eat a little bit after Havdalah to be Yotzei Melave Malka. Okay?
You said when he just be told even if it was a mitzvah?
Well,
if he was so full that he couldn't eat.
No, it wasn't full. He was nauseous. Yeah.
He would even be patur from Suda.
But he didn't want to be patur. He didn't want to be patur. He wanted to do the mitzvah.
Okay, what does it mean you don't want to be patur?
I don't know. But it says that he was having trouble keeping it down. And he had his talmidim force him to, get up and eat a little bit.
If somebody's patur from a mitzvah and they do it anyways, is it even considered them doing a mitzvah?
I don't know. I don't think that the so-called Tosefes Maisarav, it's in the printing. I have a copy of it on the computer now, an early printing. It's printed with the Maisarav along with the Pula Sachir, which is reliable. For whatever reason, this Tosefes Maisarav was left out of other editions. For example, the Musada Rav Kook edition by Rav Maimon, a classic, good edition, leaves it out. Okay, this little piece. Okay, so the point is, bottom line is, you understand the Rambam understands the Gemara, Yisada Olam Shulchan Erev Shabbos, and Motzei Shabbos is talking about meal number one, meal number two. This makes sense. Meal number one, still set your table because you could say, I don't eat that much at night. I'm just going to go to sleep now, and I'll eat a meal on Shabbos morning. Kamash Balan, you have to set the table nicely for the first Shabbos meal, even if it's just a piece of bread. So too, you have to set your table nicely for Shalosh Shudis, even if you're just going to have a small piece of bread. Why? Because you filled yourself up. We have short Shabbos days here in the winter. It's much shorter in Lita, where the Vilna Gaon did. The shortest Shabbos day is about 5.5 hours long. In the winter, yes. Go look it up. See what time it is. Hold on, before it gets connected here. Plug me in over here. Let's just look at the Zmanim, okay? Zmanim for Vilnius, Chabad.org, or my Zmanim. See what time the Zricha and the Shkia are on January 1st. Okay? So you'll see that it's a very short day. If you had a long Shabbos, you daven just a little bit late, and there's a bar mitzvah and things in shul. In Vilnius. Vilna in Hebrew, Vilnius, Vilnius, my Zamanim. Yeah. See what time the Zricha and the Shkia are. How much time you have between them? Yeah.
Okay.
What time is it?
Let's see, change date to...
Meanwhile, we'll go on to the next halacha. Okay. By the way, I think this is something that's a little bit eye-opening. So what do I do? Well, as you know, we have major Shalosh Shudis, so we do Tosefes Shabbos that way, right? And I'm not in a rush to get to Marav. There's later Marav Minyanim. And after Shabbos, we eat Dafka Kazayas of Pas. Right? You remember? Means leftover cake, Do it nicely. This is also an afkamina, by the way. What do you do on Shabbos? That's Yom Kippur. You're not going to eat any meal. So you should still set the table nicely. You should still put a tablecloth on the table.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.